A castle stands atop a hill, seemingly abandoned. The Snake and Wind Hashira arrive at the base, led by two demon corps members who claim that a woman from the swordsmith village was kidnapped and taken there. Coincidentally, they arrive just before the demon, lugging the woman over their shoulder, enters the fortress. They hurry after him and send the other corps members away. They've got this. When they pursue the kidnapper, they discover an unprecedented number of demons lurking within the castle halls. They've never seen so many in one place before. Have they accidentally stumbled across some sort of nest? Being Hashira, they have no problem cutting down the hordes of demons coming out of the woodwork. The Wind Hashira chases the kidnapper onto a rooftop. But right when he thinks he's got him cornered, the demon straight up chucks the woman off the edge while jumping into the hole where the rest of the roof has collapsed. Luckily, the Snake Hashira catches the woman and instantaneously gets her to safety. She's gone in the blink of an eye somehow, and the two Hashira leap into the unknown. Stunned by the sudden change in the laws of physics, the confused swordsmen have no idea that they've just inadvertently stumbled into the Infinity Castle. They're basically on Muzan's front doorstep. As they regain momentum, the Wind Hashira attempts to behead the kidnapper. But the demon simply turns to gloat before a door slams shut, causing the entire MC Escher wet dream to vanish from existence. Back at the Demon Slayer Corps, Kanao arrives at the Butterfly Mansion, where Shinobu, the insect Hashira, relays Nezuko's startling discovery of sunscreen. Since Muzan hasn't been able to decipher what SPF stands for, he'll surely be gunning for the secrets hidden behind her thousand-yard stare. So, Shinobu tasks Kanao with her care, as she's been summoned to attend a Hashira meeting. Meanwhile, Goto catches Tanjiro up on what's happening in the swordsmith village while he recovers. Apparently, they have multiple skeleton villages they can move to at a moment's notice due to the master's foresight. Tanjiro almost slips up by mentioning that Tamayo will be examining Nezuko, but plays it off as smoothly as he can by nearly choking to death. At the Hashira meeting, after all seven arrive, they wonder about the master's plans going forward in light of the new revelations. Though Kagaya is nowhere to be seen, Amane and their children appear instead. She apologizes for his absence and cites the progression of his illness. Not just for this meeting, but indefinitely. The Hashira are shocked, though they understand the inevitability of such an outcome. There's no doubt that Muzan has a hard-on to get his tan on for the first time in centuries, but that's not the only reason for their meeting. Amane wants to know about the conditions that led to the mysterious marks appearing on both Mitsuri and Muichiro during their battles with the upper ranks. She reveals that the marks date back to the Sengoku period. Demon Slayer, who created the first breathing style, manifested a mark resembling that of a demon. Apparently in his writings, the other Slayers who helped him nearly defeat Muzan soon followed suit with marks of their own. Since the only written record is sparse, the Demon Slayers aren't taught about them to avoid getting their hopes up. However, after the first mark appears, those close to them resonate somehow, which causes them to manifest their own. Though it wasn't a Hashira this time, it was the one and only Tanjiro Kamado, who was woefully inadequate at explaining how his manifested. So Amane gives Mitsuri and Muichiro the floor. The love Hashira describes a euphoric and empowering feeling, unlike any other that defies explanation. So Muichiro tries to empirically break down the state he was in. Unaware of the mark at the time, after believing that Kotetsu had died trying to save him, his memories came flooding back, and he was overcome with rage. His heartbeat spiked to over 200 BPM as his body temperature rose past 39 degrees Celsius. Despite the inability to survive such conditions, he thinks that's exactly what caused the mark to appear, overcoming the brink of death in a heightened emotional state. Regardless of methodology, they are all required to begin training to acquire one. Moreover, there's a certain inevitability that comes with the mark. The sheer magnitude of such a devastating revelation is too much to bear. So go unburdened. Anyway, they decide to deliberate on how to go about it. That is, except for Giyu, who pulls out the "I'm not like other girls" card he's been keeping in his back pocket and dips. When Zenitsu returns to the mansion, you'd think his mission was to become a fisherman with all the compliments he fishes for from the girls. When Nezuko rounds the corner, he absolutely loses it, doubly so when she calls him the wrong name. Inside the mansion, Haga Nezuka arrives with Tanjiro's sword. the blade from the Sengoku period that predates the standardized nomenclature. Luckily, the swordsmith is too messed up to kill him before he leaves. Genya, who's been there the whole time, begs for silence when Inosuke crashes through the window, yelling about training. The Hashira agree to begin training the Demon Slayer Corps in 3 days. Due to the relative silence from their enemy, it's the perfect time to prepare during the calm so they can weather the storm to come. Tanjiro receives a letter from Kagaya requesting that he help convince Giyu to see the light and stop brooding. Elsewhere, Lady Tamayo's evening is interrupted by a Kasugai crow, one of Kagaya's personal persuasions, with a particular dulcet tone that borders on sinister. The bird details a proposition to join Shinobu's examination of Nezuko's condition. The demon doc is doubtful, dreading deceit despite deliberating details of the dreaded demon's decidedly deserved downfall, delayed dozens of decades. She tells Yoshiro to get ready to move one last time. They're headed for the Demon Slayer HQ. Tanjiro accepts the challenge of convincing the Water Hashira to join the others in their training efforts. When he gets to Giyu's place, he repeatedly yells to get his attention, but to no avail. So he decides to head inside regardless. He wonders why Giyu is so angry. The Hashira admits that he's disappointed that Tanjiro didn't stick with water breathing. He hoped Tanjiro would become his successor, since he refuses to acknowledge himself as the Water Hashira. Refusing to give up, Tanjiro spends the next few days shadowing Giyu while pestering him. The Hashira finally succumbs and tells Tanjiro about his final selection. As a kid, he trained with a peach-haired boy named Sabito after losing their families to demons. The very same fox-masked kid who taught Tanjiro from beyond the grave. When they were 13, they entered the final selection, but before he could do anything, Giyu was injured on day 1. Sabito saved him, only to run off to save another. After spending 7 days unconscious, Giyu technically survived the final selection, despite Sabito taking out most of the demons. After he came to, he learned of Sabito's death at the hands of the hand demon that nearly killed Tanjiro. He isn't worthy of holding the title of Hashira. In his eyes, it should have been Sabito. Hell, he didn't even slay a demon during a demon-slaying test. Giyu's story resonates with Tanjiro, who feels the same guilt over Rengoku's death. But the Flame Hashira would have urged him to keep going no matter what, so he's compelled to ask if Giyu intends to pass on what Sabito gave him. Those words stop the Hashira in his tracks, unlocking a repressed memory of Sabito sharing the same sentiment. Giyu begins to agree to join the training effort. But Tanjiro starts overthinking it and blurts out a challenge for an eating contest. The Hashira is confused but agrees anyway. He wonders what Shinobu's training consists of, though Tanjiro recalls that she isn't taking part. A distraught insect Hashira attempts to calm down, implying that her assignment isn't sitting right with her. When Kanao approaches her, she decides to task her pupil with helping to kill a demon she's been plotting revenge against for years. Tanjiro is finally cleared for duty and heads out. It turns out they pulled all the stops, even getting Tengen, the sound Hashira, out of retirement to teach stamina training. After blowing the other trainees out of the water with his insane stamina and overly pippy attitude, Tanjiro joins the others for their lunch break. When he arrives, he's greeted by Tengen's 3 wives, who are glad to see he's still alive, having survived a fight with upper ranks 4 and 5, hoping he thrives under Tengen's unyielding drive. He thanks them for their advice, and strives to make the most of their time to soar to new heights. That night, 2 of the Slayers are on night patrol, where they're followed by an eyeball marked with the daiji denoting the number 4. The next day, the trainees split up into pairs, so Tanjiro picks the biggest guy in the group to carry on his back, only to outpace everyone else again. It only hammers in the disparity in their abilities. It's no wonder he survived fighting upper ranks. They wonder what it's like, only to be horrified at the level of punishment he took, only to get up time and time again. During the eating competition between Tanjiro and Giyu, the Hashira decides to throw in the towel, so Tanjiro feels like he earned it, even though he already agreed. That evening, the Wind and Snake Hashira meet up to discuss the Infinity Castle and wonder if the recent lull in demon activity has anything to do with it besides Muzan's search for Nezuko. Worrying about it won't do them any good anyway, so the only logical conclusion is to fight each other since their trainees are pretty useless. After dinner, Tengen's wives thanked Tanjiro for what he did in the entertainment district and asked him to defeat Muzan for everyone's sake. Instead of taking a lap around the mountain's base to finish off the day, Tengen tells them that he's going to spar with them, all of them at once. Luckily, they're using wooden swords, or else the former shinobi would be neck-deep in blood and tears. He singles out Tanjiro to protect the others, and the two trade blows, which blows the minds of the other trainees who have never seen two demon slayers who've tussled with the upper ranks in action. Despite not being able to hold their own, just knowing they have people that strong on their side gives them hope and something to work towards. The following morning, Tengen tells Tanjiro that he can move on to the next Hashira's training, as there's nothing more he can teach him. Being the beacon of positivity, he thanks Tengen and jogs to the next Hashira's place. It turns out to be Muichiro's training. Despite the Hashira's demeanor changing, he's still cold and brutally honest to a fault with the trainees. The entire dojo is out of breath, woefully unprepared to go toe-to-toe with the Hashira. When Muichiro notices Tanjiro, his face lights up. He has something he wants to show him, so Tanjiro follows him to a shack. Upon entering, he's greeted by Kanamori, who now works on the grounds making sure the Hashira's blades are all razor-sharp. Muichiro hands Tanjiro one of them and tells him to hold it up as he throws a paper aeroplane at it, which gets sliced in half to prove how sharp the blades are. After training in the dojo, the others ask Tanjiro to ask if Muichiro can go easy on them, or at least be less harsh, though Tanjiro tells them he's actually mellowed out recently. He notices Muichiro leave the grounds, and the others tell him that he's been leaving every night and returns in the morning. In the nearby town, a swarm of eyeballs continues to monitor the comings and goings of the demon slayers as Muichiro runs through the streets. The Wind and Snake Hashira are dueling each other using wooden swords when Muichiro rolls up. They've been training during the night, hoping to manifest their marks. They decide to team up on the Mist Hashira, who holds his own against the two. The next morning during training, the Mist Hashira thinks that using wooden blades doesn't have the urgency of a real battle, and decides to use real ones. But the trainee facing him is frozen with fear and breaks down. At the same time, Tanjiro tells him it's too much. The trainee admits he doesn't know what real battles are like, but seeing Muichiro return each morning covered in bruises has motivated them to keep improving. The Mist Hashira tells them that he just wants to give them the ability to protect themselves in battle. 5 days go by, and Tanjiro keeps his own during training, so the Hashira tells him he's past his training as there's not much more he can teach him. Before he moves on, Tanjiro challenges Muichiro to a paper aeroplane contest. If he wins, then the Hashira has to be easier on the others. He agrees that if Tanjiro can throw his paper aeroplane farther once out of 10 tries, then he wins. Outside, the trainees cheer Tanjiro on, until he botches it completely. So the other trainees pipe up and challenge the Hashira too. The day devolves into making and throwing paper aeroplanes. Later, Tanjiro discusses the recent events with Muichiro. Since Muzan is looking for his sister, she's been hidden elsewhere. But he isn't worried as Urokodaki, his former master, is the one looking after her. Before Tanjiro leaves, Muichiro takes on a more serious tone as he promises that together, they'll defeat Muzan once and for all. Thank you guys for sticking till the end of this video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button for more videos like this. Cheers!